We've already talked about Helsinki Accords. That's the main thing here. But Gerald Ford is known for this.
Raindrops kept falling on their heads as Gerald and Betty Ford arrived in Austria. President Ford kept falling on his head, first in Salzburg in front of Austrian Chancellor Kreisky. Hi, thanks for dropping by. Then in Michigan on a trip up the same stairs.
So, that's what Nixon's known for, or Ford rather. He fell down a lot. By the way, they mentioned Betty Ford. Betty Ford is the one who has these famous rehabilitation clinics where famous people will go to the Betty Ford Clinic for drug and alcohol addiction. Now, the thing that dooms Ford is that he goes on TV and he announces a presidential pardon for Richard Nixon, which excuses him of any current wrongdoing charges or anything that may come out, because there's a famous book by two journalists called All the President's Men that connects Watergate to Nixon. Can't use any of that in court. So the perception of America is that Ford just pardoned a crook. And so the little thing against him in 1976 was this pardon of Gerald, It's kind of a funny thing. Now, Ford does have time to try to announce a domestic program. It was called WIN. All right? Now, WIN stood for Whip Inflation Now. And so his point was, I can't defeat the stagnant economy. Maybe I can do something about the inflation and help people out, and then eventually jobs will be created. All right? So there we are with that on Gerald Ford. Now, in the election of 1976, who would you say won? Now, if you look at the number of states, it kind of looks like Ford did. But you have to look close at the blue states and the numbers. In particular, right up here in New York and Pennsylvania, Ohio, tons of electoral votes, right? Remember, it's the Electoral College, not popular vote. And so the man elected was elected because he said, I can restore honesty to the presidency. He had an everyday appeal to him because he was a peanut farmer from Georgia, and his name is Jimmy Carter. All right, so election 1976, Carter wins because of his appeal. Now, Jimmy Carter famously forewent, that a word? He forewent the traditional limo ride to the White House. He walked. Now, why did he walk? Because we're in the midst of an energy crisis in the mid-'70s, all right? Everywhere had an energy crisis, power shortages, etc. Now, how does Carter combat the energy shortage or energy crisis? He creates the Department of Energy. They begin to nuclear power plants. They begin to windmills and water turbines, solar panels, developing electric cars, stuff that still goes on today. And a major part of this energy crisis was an oil shortage. It's oil shortage, and they limited you to gas, and so we're going to look at that, because why was the oil shortage happening? To get to that, I've got to talk about the Yom Kippur War. Now, Yom Kippur is a Jewish holiday, okay? Now, what we have to look as going on here is this. There is significant movement here being had after the war. Israel, which is a country, it would have been all of this and this stuff here. Okay? Now, Israel also gained something here. Now, the in particular things we have to talk about are the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Now, the West Bank is home to Jerusalem, okay, which is an important place for both Muslims, Jews, and Christians. All three, not both. Christians aren't in this case what's going on here. So on Yom Kippur, part of the biggest thing is a fast for 24 hours where you do not eat or drink. During this fast, Syria and Egypt will attack and invade Israel in this basically 6-day war. And it's pretty gruesome, and it goes on, and it drags out for a couple of years after the initial invasion of 6 days, and there's a major thing that has to happen. Okay? So, Yom Kippur War, they're invaded. Now, we as being the United States and the United Nations are in a position to talk about who we support in this Yom Kippur War. We support Israel. Okay? Now, I'll come back to that in a second. We support Israel. Okay? So we're good there with that? Good. we said we support Israel because of human rights. All right? Human rights are guaranteed as universal legal guarantees belong to all human beings to protect individuals or groups from actions or omissions that affect fundamental human dignity. In short, if you do anything that we can go, hey, they're human, don't do that, that's wrong, we get upset. And so we said Syria and Egypt had no place to go and invade them. It was a violation of human rights. They will retaliate. There's an organization called OPEC, all right? And OPEC stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. These are the countries, okay? Now, with the exclusion of Ecuador and Venezuela, they are all Islamic countries. All the countries that were fighting Israel in this Yom Kippur War are also Islamic. And so these countries come up with a plan, and it was to oil embargo the United States as punishment for siding with Israel. And when they did that, there was a major gas shortage in the 70s. You were limited to gallons of gas that you could get. And so this is the first time we have oil being used as a political weapon. And today it's still being used, all right? Now, ultimately, in the end, we do weather the storm. But generally, as the saying goes, if we say something negative about an Islamic country or about one of those countries in OPEC, our gas prices are going to go up. Whereas if we say something positive or allow them to do something they want to do, our gas prices will go down. So if you watch the news and you go, oh, they said Iran can have a nuclear power plant, gas prices down. Or they go, oh, gonna invade Libya to get Muammar Gaddafi, gas prices go up. And so that's what it is, because there's no regulation on crude oil prices. It's straightforward, unregulated, laissez-faire on supply and demand. We supply the most, or not supply the most, we demand the most. So therefore, we're going to have to pay the biggest price. And that's how that works. Now, next section note, we're going to talk about some things. First, a good thing about Carter, and then the negative things leading up to his really, why he doesn't win in 80. Okay?